The UC San Diego created a study. 75% of the people who participated chose ChatGPT as a human. AI intelligence is created since the 60s, in fact. But this is the first time that one actually tricks a human into thinking it's a human.
What I can see is a wonderful dilemma evolving where we, Homo sapiens, meets AI in 20 years. And what's the difference? We look at AI as you owe me. I invented you, and therefore you serve me. You make my life easier. And all of a sudden, maybe it's moving up.
What happens is this latest version of ChatGPT that we can tell it's pretty advanced is put into a human body in terms of like a robot. Hi everyone, welcome to SciTech Suisse, a podcast about AI, technology and lifestyle. My name is Margarita Silva, and I'm today with Peter Moertl, the executive producer of this podcast.
Hello.
Today we have a special edition of Vibe Check, which is our debate format.
Yes.
And we're going to dive into a very exciting topic, which is ChatGPT is the first AI to be able to trick humans into believe it is a human. And I know that sounds a bit complicated too. Yes, you're probably still processing it, but don't worry, we're gonna go into the detail of it. And also before we dive in this topic, please don't forget to subscribe and follow us in other social media.
Absolutely.
And leave us a comment as well if you
Love to hear from you.
Let's start with the beginning.
Yes.
So there is this mathematician, a British mathematician, Alan Turing.
Yeah.
He created a test back in the 50s where he posed the question, can machines think? Are they able to trick humans into believing they are pretty much humans or that they can achieve the intelligence of a human?
Based on written material, basically, at the time.
Yes, initially.
Okay.
I guess philosophically it involves everything, but so far it's been mostly focused on the written part.
Yes.
So the UC San Diego created a study where it's pretty much an experiment where they created this platform, which by the way, you can go, we will leave you the link in the description.
Yeah.
Basically what they do is they created a platform where you can go as a user and then you chat with someone. It can be either a machine or a person, but you don't know. So you're just having a conversation. And then
so you're reading your text like on your WhatsApp.
Just
it says,
a
hello,
WhatsApp,
how are you?
exactly. Like
I'm
a
Johnny. How are you
conversation.
doing, Margarita?
How are you doing?
Yes.
What's your favorite song? You know, you
Written,
are
written.
assuming that you're talking with a human.
Okay. Got it.
But at the end, after having two conversations,
Yes.
you have to
Was this a
tell
machine?
which one was the machine and which one was the human.
Human. Okay, got it.
And the funny part of all of this is 75% of the people who participated chose ChatGPT as a human. So they really thought they were talking with
out of
a person.
100, 75 were talking to what turned out to be a machine, ChatGPT, which I think machine is too small of a name for ChatGPT.
Yes, I agree.
So we were tricked, or we were, in a way, right?
Yes, pretty much. They really thought they were talking to a human.
Yeah.
But in fact, it was ChatGPT.
Right.
And
why shouldn't it surprise us, by the way? Why are you so surprised? What is ChatGPT?
Yes, no, the surprise here and why this is so important, historically speaking, is because it's never been achieved so far. There have been many AI intelligences created since the 60s, in fact.
Yes.
But this is the first time that one is so, how can I put it, believable?
Yeah.
Like realistic.
Convincing,
that actually tricks a human into thinking it's a human. Because normally you can pick up things, like if the answers are they sound robotic kind of thing, right? Like, for example, when you go to the customer service of your bank or whatever service.
Well, bankers are robotic, even if they're humans.
Yes. But when you go in there, to the chat to the chat and
Yeah.
then you talk, you most of the time you can definitely tell you're talking
Right.
to a chatbot because
Right.
it's like, hello, welcome.
Yeah.
Choose from the following options.
Yes.
Right? And if
Yes.
you start saying, oh, I'm so annoyed because this,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
I will give you these options. I mean, it's very,
Limited.
limited, exactly. But with ChatGPT, the thing is that it's been programmed so well
Yeah.
that it can mimic the interactions that we have. So now when you use with that, because also to clarify, this is with the latest version of
Which is
ChatGPT, 4.5.
4.5. Okay.
Yes. So with the 4.5, now when you go and chat with it, I've noticed that now it most of the time it reacts something like wow or oh or
So it's encouraging.
kind of thing.
So
Yes,
it
it's like
learned to.
it. For example, sometimes you
Involve
ask
the
a
other
question
person.
and it answers. Oh, that's a great question. Let me just explain it to you. I mean, it's very natural. It just feels.
But are we talking about garbage in, garbage out? Or are we talking about garbage in and then the neural system of ChatGPT sort of profiles it positively? Do we know?
It's a hard question.
Right? Because normally garbage in, garbage out, right? If I put in my Excel spreadsheet,
Yeah.
that's what it is, and I put in the wrong formula, then I get the wrong answer, right? That's
Yes, I
typical
mean-
the garbage in, garbage out. So what would be exciting to find out
Mm.
is that we just load it up with a library of knowledge, and then it mixes Shakespeare with Heine and whomever,
Look,
and comes
it's-
out with an
it's
incredible
got
piece
quite,
of art.
Quite complex.
Okay.
One of the things that also I found it was interesting is that they also did the experiment with using ChatGPT as it is and prompting ChatGPT telling it, okay, we want you to perform as a human and answer, they gave a prompt to give the specific instruction to ChatGPT that they want it to sound as human as possible.
Right.
And also that made a difference. When they prompted it and told it like that specific instruction,
Yeah.
the percentage was higher that people couldn't tell if it was a human or not.
Really?
Yes.
So the instructions are act like, let's say, a typical American from
Exactly.
Massachusetts in the choice of words
You give a
use,
personality
A
to it.
personality. So that is really garbage in, so to speak. So
Yes,
we program it that way.
And that's something we can all do, by the way, like for the audience who's listening to us. If
Yes.
you ever want a very good result in anything, let's say you want to know something about a medical situation that
Yes.
is very specific, you prompt it and you tell it, I want you to answer this question
Specifically.
as if you were a neuromedicine, whatever.
Yeah, neurologist, yeah.
Yes, you give it a specific personality,
Yes.
and then it will, speak from that personality.
But I mean, if still it has sort of it's like a Google 404, right? I mean, if I Google and I say, listen, I have a pain in my tooth, what could that be? Google says, you have tooth cancer, you have a root canal issue, you have a cavity, nothing, just take a
with
toothpick.
Google, you get results from pages or articles that
Right.
have been written by humans.
Yes.
So, yes.
At the moment.
the
we
moment,
don't
yeah,
know.
well,
Could be written by
at the moment.
ChatGPT in the future.
Yes, of course. No, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure
Okay.
many nowadays are
Yeah.
also built by the
Yeah.
ChatGPT. But like you just get a series of articles and pages that talk about that topic. So
Yes.
that's different. But then when you go to ChatGPT, you actually get a very structured answer, and it's getting better and better. Like it gives you tables with statistics and stuff. You can prompt it to anything. Like now, and this is the whole hype that's been in the last few
Right,
weeks,
right.
that it can also now create very accurate images. You can give it data, and
Yeah.
it can create an image with all those statistics, like an infographic. So now we have all these AI, different AIs, and we have the Meta one, we have which by the way, it was also included in the study, the Meta.
Yeah.
It's called Llama.
Yeah.
We have also now the Twitter one, which is Grok, which by the way is also really impressive.
Tell me about it. You ever used it?
Yes, it's quite interesting because now people
It's called
are
X
using
now, but Twitter,
X,
I don't
yes,
know what you mean.
right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's
So
X.
how does Grok work?
It's pretty great because people, let's say there is a tweet,
Yeah.
and then you can ask something regarding that. You can ask Grok. Grok is the name of this
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah.
And you ask, hey, can you please tell me if this tweet is true? Or, for example, if this is a tweet about, the U.S. economy, which is a trending topic right now.
Yeah.
Is this fact that is said in this tweet right or not? Can you give me more information about what the current state of economy in the US is right now?
Yes.
And then Grok immediately answers, and it's a public answer, so everyone can see that, not only you, which is the difference, for example, with ChatGPT. When ChatGPT, you are talking one-on-one.
Yes.
In this one, it's pretty interesting because it actually answers in the platform, so everyone can see this. Going back to our main topic,
Yes.
Why this is a big deal is obviously because the more these AI tools resemble humans, it means they are getting closer to do the things that we all do, right? So
or right at the moment, yes, because we're not talking about speaking, right? It's not talking to me like a machine.
Oh no, but you can set it up for talking as well.
For talking as well.
Yes,
but
yes.
I choose the voice. I say it's a female.
Yes, you choose the voice, and you can choose the accent. You can choose everything you want. Yes, it's like.
Okay.
But yes, I mean, obviously this AI can be used. So my question, for example, would be, what happens is if this latest version of ChatGPT that we can tell it's pretty advanced is put into a human body in terms of like
oh my God.
a robot, right?
Yes.
But that when you see it,
it
looks like a human. And actually, it reminds me as well of that episode we did about movies, AI movies.
Yeah, Christmas,
where we talked about Ex Machina.
Yes.
And this movie is all about the Turing Test, in
yes.
fact, because the creator of the robot, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it, you should definitely go and watch it because it's really good.
Yeah.
Spoilers ahead, by the way. But basically, the whole movie parts from that. There is a guy. It's pretty much like a mimic of, like Steve Jobs kind of guy. It's, he's a genius, and he's created this robot that looks a lot, like you see it, you couldn't tell the difference with a human because he's created synthetic skin and everything.
Yeah.
And then it's also quite smart, and it's pretty much reached the level of conversation of a regular human. So the whole point is that he wants to see if this AI can trick a human.
Yes.
But the human knows that he's talking. He brings a guy, and he knows that he's talking to
a machine.
Because she, even though she has the skin off, even though he sees all of that he knows, and he's aware that he's talking to a robot, in the end he falls in love with the robot, and he believes the robot loves him back.
Yes.
I mean, if you think about it from a logical perspective,
why not, right?
Yes and no.
If walks like a
if
duck,
you are aware that it's
quacks.
a robot, you should part from the principle that machines cannot love, right? But it's so convincing that he ends up really thinking that she has feelings for him, which is not the case. In the end, she leaves, and spoiler ahead, he dies because she leaves him locked in. She wouldn't care. She just wants to escape.
Because she has no emotions and he starves, basically.
She doesn't care.
Which is interesting because if you look at the human brain, which is really the comparison we're trying to achieve here, the brain works on random walk, right? Mm-hmm. Random walk means it's not pre-planned. For instance, if you look at our vision, right? Here we think you sit upright and those spotlights and everything is there. Well, in reality, it's upside down. So the message, the visual message that our brain gets through the eye, through the retina, is an upside down picture. It is the brain that then flips it around. Mm-hmm. And by doing so, the brain interprets. It says, well, 2-dimensional, this could look like this. 3-dimensional, this could look like this. And all of a sudden, it makes certain assumptions like the further away something is, the smaller it is. The closer it is, the bigger. And all these kind of things, it happens within milliseconds and whatnot. So it can easily be tricked. Mm-hmm. And this is one of the, on the one hand, in the perfect world, and if I assume, if I were a technician, I want my AI to be perfect. That's a goal. Yet we developed and evolved because we weren't perfect. So I think what I can see is a wonderful dilemma evolving where we, Homo sapiens, right, meets AI in 20 years, and what's the difference, right? What did I create?
That would be my question, because you can start wondering what will happen when, we also talked about iRobot.
Yes.
Where the robots were actually fact part of the society.
Yes.
And they were pretty much like humans in terms of like they were working, they were walking your dog, you were paying them. So one of the things that, and this is why also Bill Gates has been saying now for a while, like, we really need to watch out, because in a couple years, the AI is going to be part of our life. Like, it's here to stay, basically. That's one thing. I don't like to think about it as a scary thing.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like everything. Every time we have new technology, we're scared that, oh my God, what does this mean? And then,
are we going to lose my job? Or
when we had the radio,
life?
Oh my God, the newspapers are going to disappear. And then the TV came, oh my God, the radio is going to disappear. In the end, they're all still there, right?
Yes,
so
black and white.
I don't like to see it in an apocalyptic...
Or in a binominal 0-1
yes. No, I think it will have some...
impact.
Definitely,
yes.
But I also think it will have benefits and downsides, like everything. But on the benefit side, I think it's kind of cool to think that if a robot is going to be taking care of my kid in the future or something like that.
Yes.
I'm more comfortable thinking that this is a very smart...
It's a nice thing to delegate.
...robot, and not just a robot that is saying, yes, I will change baby. Like...
Well, change the diapers. Hopefully don't change the
Well,
baby.
yes, hopefully, yes. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, I mean, on one side, it's going to be helpful for many things.
Yes.
On the other side, obviously, what we always speak is this fear that everyone has. It's like, okay, are we going to be replaced? Blah, blah, blah.
It's funny how we humans always have this master-servant thinking, right? It was interesting that you immediately say, I delegate the babysitting to a robot, as opposed to another mother. It's funny, we are like that, right? The Spaniards came to Latin America and they didn't say, oh, great, another people, isn't that cool? No, they kill him first and then they say, where's the gold, right? So we have that sort of instinctive, animalistic way in us that we look at AI as, you owe me, I invented you, and therefore you serve me, you make my life easier, and all of a sudden, maybe it's moving up.
Exactly, which we haven't talked about Terminator, but it takes us to the Terminator visuals where the machines take over, and that's the apocalyptic view. But look, I do believe there are opportunities, right? So what I think right now,
yes,
and I think we are too slow in this, as always, as usual. It was the same with the internet. It took us decades to actually get to have legislation and like specific rules on how this thing should work, and if someone commits a crime online, how does that work out? Took us too long.
Yes.
Same is happening right now. We should already be wondering about all this stuff, because this is going to be evolving so fast as it's been. I mean, 2 years ago, ChatGPT was not a thing. And now it's basically reached to a level where absolutely everyone is using it. Then what's going to happen in 2 years is probably going to be, again, part of our lives, or maybe they will launch these robots that you can have in your house. We don't know. We don't know how long that's going to take. But my question is, how are we going to play that out? Like, are they going to have rights? Are they going to, we should start
a language agenda.
Exactly, because if they
whole
are smart,
woke movement going on.
They are smart.
Yes.
They won't take too long to figure out, wait a minute.
Yes.
I'm doing all these tasks for this human, and then there is this meme about this like in 20 years in the future, and there are all these robots with guns, and then it comes like, no, wait, spare his life. He was always saying thank you when he was asking us to do his job.
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. Just spare his life.
But it is funny. I mean, the viewers that know me, and you, of course, Margarita, I mean, I like to go back in history or philosophy, and it reminds me of a bunch of people living in south of France, and they were called the Neanderthals, right? And they said, wow, we're humans, we're not monkeys anymore. Great, we can kill animals and we live great. And then a bunch of people came up from Africa, which later on were called Homo sapiens, and they were peaceful together. I mean, they lived, 2,000 people in all of Europe, right? So talking about crowded, no, not really, but they met. Right? And historically, who survived? The Homo sapiens, right? However, in all of us, as we're walking around the world, Asia included, America included anyway, in Latin America, because you're a bunch of Europeans, actually, at the end of the day, or Asians, 2% of Neanderthal is still in our DNA. And who knows, maybe in 200-300 years, we're going to be the Neanderthals. And yes, there will be in the DNA of the AI humanoid, or whatever they call themselves, will be 2% of us in there, in terms of a chip, in terms of, I gave birth to this and what have you. Is that so bad? I mean, do we care?
That's what I think.
Do we care?
We shouldn't be having this apocalyptic view. It's just about
it's an
the world is
evolutionary
changing
view.
as usual. The world is always changing. I don't say this. Buddhism, that's the main principle. The world is in constant change. But yes, I mean,
No, I'm exaggerating to make a point.
Yes,
of
course.
I'm trying to be provocative.
But you are making the right point, because this is the general concern about, like, okay, where is this going?
Yeah.
Like, how far is this gonna go, and to what extent humans will be replaced, and what professions will be the most affected, etc.
Yeah.
At this stage, if it keeps evolving so fast,
we're in the thick of it. I mean, we're in the beginning of the thick of it, really.
Yes.
I shouldn't say that, but the next 2-3 generations will be very much affected by it, to the point where they will relate to it totally different than we do, or than I do. I mean, you keep in mind, the first 40 years of my life, I didn't have a mobile phone.
Yes,
Not because I didn't have the money, it's because it hasn't been invented.
It didn't exist.
I didn't have Google the first 40 years of my life, right?
Yes.
If I took you for a date, my goal for the night was to get your 4-digit telephone number, the landline, right? So that's where I come from. So if you imagine the next generation, like my kids, when you grow up with it as a natural, I just had a parents' day today with my 12-year-old in her school, and it was French. And I would say 75% of the class was done on AI. It was to the point where, for instance, the teacher was saying, "Oh, listen, let's read a story," and she threw the QR code on the screen. All the kids lifted the iPad. Okay, and then they had to read. Okay, Johnny, you talk this sentence and what have you. But then there was a moment, and I really found it interesting, having lived in the States for so long. They played bingo, analog, on the piece of paper. So there is a nice combination of 75%.
Yes.
It's all digital.
Which is what I think is going to keep happening.
And we still appreciate the fact that they use a piece of paper and whatnot. But clearly, my 12-year-old, if we were to tell her, I take your iPad away, her whole school bag is gone. And my 16-year-old, she doesn't even have any paper anymore.
Yeah.
In her backpack is just the iPad.
Yeah.
And her stress is if she has the charger or not. So I got her 2 chargers, if she forgets it in school, to have another one in her backpack. So clearly, and if you imagine this is now, in 50, 60 years,
yes, it's going to be
people
a
will
different
say,
world.
what, you put gas in your car? How does that work? I never heard of that. We only have cars where you step in and it automatically goes somewhere. There's never a traffic jam. There's never a shortage of parking lots because you go on and go off, and it's like a carousel type of thing. So again, the random walk principle of our brain, I predict, will adjust to
Yes,
the
that's what I
life
feel.
we
We are
created.
definitely going to adapt to the new situation. We're going to...
The same way we couldn't go back if this would be 1600, and we would have to live without air conditioning, without heater, and without lamp.
Yes.
We wouldn't know what to
We
do.
would have toilets.
We wouldn't even know how to
No
light
toilets.
a candle or toilets, whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
We
I think
always adapt
we
to the
adapt,
new.
and since we only live on average 50 to 100 years, maybe, that's not a long time, right? So, and that's what keeps the human race.
What will be interesting to see is on the ethical side, and we have talked about this as well
Yeah.
in a different episode,
Yeah.
is are they going to become such a part of our lives that at some point we also start marrying them? I don't know. This
Well,
this could happen, right? Like
it might happen if that's your thing. That could happen. I could.
not my thing.
I'm just looking more benign. Like we took the wolf
Yes.
and then made a dog out of it. We took a cat and made a house cat out of it. So it's that kind of relationship. Maybe it's equal level. Yes, could
yes,
be.
Yes, that's what I think.
And
it's
quite
interesting.
frankly, if you think of, retirement homes, wouldn't it be great if those people that have nobody? I mean, there's nurses, there's people that care for them, but quite frankly, the ratio is 1 to 20, 1 to 50. So one nurse has to handle 50 people with, I'm talking about dementia, with mental
Yes.
issues, with physical issues. There's only so much love those people get. If they have robots that make him feel great and read stories to them,
That's
and
why I
play
say,
cards
that's
with
why
them,
I say that it also
the
has
heck with it.
its
Fantastic.
benefits, right?
Absolutely.
Like, it could be amazing in so many scenarios, right? And as well, we have AI also solving problems. Like
Yes.
now that you say like the neurological diseases and stuff, and Alzheimer's, etc. We have recently also done an episode that says an expert saying, yes, the AI is helping us to figure out all the diseases.
Cancer,
so
dementia.
That's the other good thing is AI is actually helping
Huntington
us
disease.
to
Absolutely.
improve our humanness, if you want to say.
Now, this was all the good stuff here, right?
Yes.
And I think this is where on the ethical side, we as a society have to be very careful to continue to encourage and foster the positive thing that we just talked about.
Yeah.
And make super sure.
Yes,
not
regulation.
The wrong
Again, we go back
person
to regulation.
well, not only regulation. I'm talking about the guy having access to the right button. Because that is this could very quickly turn into a total different environment of control and what have you. So this is where I see more of the detriment. That as long as it's supporting and helps the elderly and the education and the mothers and the fathers and keeps the air clean and whatnot, increases efficiency. Those are all positive things, right? Yeah. So that's okay. It's just the threshold that the source of it all really is the military.
Yeah.
And the military is still active in this business. Because AI cannot only be used for good things, it can also be used for bad
like everything.
things. And that's
like internet.
And this is what we have to be mindful of, and particularly in this day and age. I mean, we are access to information is much easier.
Look, it's slowly going there. Like for example, with the images situation, the very first day ChatGPT launched the newest version.
Yeah.
You could do images about absolutely anything.
Yeah.
And then the next days, when we were trying to do it, it was already saying, "Oh no, I cannot create this kind of image because it has copyright issues."
Yeah.
Or
so that control mechanisms.
Yes,
built
they've
in.
changed, slightly tweaked, the internal algorithm.
Yes.
To say no, this kind of stuff
cannot
be done.
Wouldn't
right?
work.
And it's all the time being constantly evolving and including new regulation and laws and this kind
Absolutely.
of thing.
Well,
that's self-regulation because there's no
let me share
legislation.
another observation is that ever since iPhone, ever since AI particularly, became more and more part of everyday life, the psychological satisfaction of what's called instant gratification gets really nourished, right? All those systems, all those algorithms are built on the addiction that we have automatically built in. And that's what I find sad, that we are headline oriented. If you look at TikTok, one of the success stories of TikTok is short. It's crisp. And even for the dummies, it's written out so you understand both. Regardless of the accent, it's all spelled out in German, English, Spanish, Russian, whatever it is. And that's something I miss because that's something we humans can do. We can reflect. And that does differentiate us from the robot, and that does differentiate us from the dog and the cats and the birds and what have you. I mean, my dog will never wake up and say, you know what, I'd rather be in Labrador. I hate Switzerland. Labrador is much cooler, it's colder. What the heck am I doing? No, it doesn't reflect like that. We have the capability, and we have to be darn sure as a family and parents and whatnot that we teach this to our kids, that there's other stuff going on. I had a wonderful experience the other week. I was invited by one of my godsons to a Missa Tango, okay? So I thought, Missa Tango, that's interesting. It was in the church, of course, right? And typical me, unprepared, goes there. 150 kids, 13 to 17 years old, all in the little outfits and what have you. Then a little orchestra, and then the Argentinian harmonica. And they played the Mass, La Misa, in Argentinian music. And the kids were singing Latin and Greek verses. And I thought, here we are. Those kids spent, 10 hours on those things a day? But yet I'm sitting here listening to them singing Kyrie eleison, Jesus eleison. And I'm like, that is cool. That they can still sort of go back and enjoy, and you could see in the smiles, right? The sopranos, the alto, and we both are singers, so we appreciate this stuff going on, that this in this generation is still happening. And this is what we have to foster. This is what we have to tell kids, this is all good. And the artificial intelligence is great, but the emphasis is on artificial. It's literally translated made art, right? Made. It's a piece of art, which it is. You have to respect that. But it's so nice to still reflect on, in this case, a beautiful choir and what have you. So I was trying to challenge you during our conversation to say, don't worry about it, it's going to be fine.
Yes. Look,
but I'd like to take that approach just to challenge you too.
Look, no, and I think to wrap it up, what we can say about this is like, yes, now we have an AI that is pretty much mimicking our ways, our...
Should we say it's emancipating? Let's put it positively. It's not mimicking, it's emancipating to become a human person.
Yes, and what I'm trying to say is like, obviously, we don't have an AI that has actual emotions, right? They are just imitating our emotions, our ways of speaking, our interactions.
They know the trigger points.
Yes, but at the same time, we're still different, and we are still the ones who actually have emotions.
Yes.
So...
which is a good thing at times.
As long as that's the case, I think we are still different. We are still, it's still an AI and it's still a human.
Yes.
Yes. Now you can be confused when you have this kind of chat and you don't know if it's a human or an AI.
Yeah.
But in the end, we still have the humanity. It still has the emotion, and that's what it will always makes us a bit
different.
Different
okay.
for that. So
yes.
I think that's to end up in a positive note. And yes, well, thank you, Peter. I think it was a very nice episode.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yes, well, we hope that you really enjoyed this conversation.
Do subscribe.
Again, you can agree or disagree with us.
We'd love to hear your comments.
Exactly. Please leave us the comments. Tell us what do you think about this. You think AI it's actually able to trick you or not? Let us know. And of course, subscribe, like, share, follow us on all of our social media.
Yes.
And that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.